They had that card they mailed out. It went to the guy that used to own the house.
It's
So,
complicated.
going out
Are you here to cause trouble tonight?
So anyway.
I appreciate it.
Is it, should be close, is it running, Andrew?
Yeah.
The tape is on.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we got a half a minute. Wow.
Looking for a light.
I guess.
Any more votes left? All votes out?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
This weekend.
Well, we maybe.
I don't want to wait till last minute.
Got stuff, bunch of stuff in storage. They want to start degrees before.
We moved it down there, I'm like, that's it.
I don't know.
That's not lost.
You know that.
I told Mom it snow before.
Yeah, I've seen them.
I
I've seen a lot of
just
times.
don't want to get it out.
Yeah, one time I was watching someone come in and they were all
Finishing furniture.
I said, what's that there? It was
It's a different card. It's the white card.
So we do a bunch of things
This is
that we want
crazy.
to do.
That comes alive.
Well, folks, it looks like it's going to be standing room only tonight, so at 6 o'clock, I propose we get started. Thanks for coming. We will commence with the approval of the September 28th board meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look them over? Are there any additions, deletions, corrections? I only saw one thing, and it was that we adjourned at 7:20 a.m. and not p.m. But it was 7:20.
It's a very long meeting.
Yeah, bad news. If there are no others, I would ask for a motion, please, to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, Mary Jane moved, Laura seconded, Andrew.
Okay.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve those minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. By the way, Michael Klitzing will not be here tonight, and Les has to leave at 7. So I think we will have done anything we need to vote on. We should be good, and we may be done by 7. That would be a great goal. How about the treasurer's report, Mr. Blackwell?
I'm looking for it. You started the meeting before I was ready.
No, now
But,
you're gonna make us run late.
What's that?
Now you're gonna make us run late.
No, I'm ready, and then I may move on to the manager's report while I can get this other stuff done. For September, again, Sue, I had to do the math because I'm not getting my expense report, but Adam's going to take care of that. We had income, a whopping $5,915. So just keep that in mind, $5,900, and we spent $29,002 for September, and so that's basically the September report. And so if I could entertain a motion for the report of claims for September.
I will make that motion. Pam Dugan made the motion to approve September report of claims.
A second, Laura.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, I'll go right ahead and move into the adoption of the 2018 Lake Lemon Conservancy District budget. Let me get to that screen. I'm here now. Thank you for being patient with me. Okay. Oh, darn it. Okay. So if I could get a motion to adopt the 2018 annual budget.
I so move.
Second,
I'm Sue Miller.
Mary Jane seconded.
With there being no discussion, if I could, everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Adam.
All right, on the this resolution 101702, there's a few places to sign. The second page, we need everybody to sign. And the third page is this Form 4 for the government, so everybody will need to check aye and sign on that page too. On the last page of this, there's a spot that Mike needs to sign as the treasurer, so I need 2 signatures from everybody and then 3 from Mike.
Okay, and that's all exactly the same as what we looked at last time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
And the same for the upcoming one, this fees
We-
and charges, no changes there?
We will go over that.
Okay.
We will still need a motion for the 2018 Statement of Salaries and Wages, which is Resolution 101702. And you got this in your packet, whereas it's been determined now necessary to approve the 28 annual budget. Therefore, we, as the Board of Directors of the district, we've approved the $546,000 in annual operating budget for 2018. We will need to approve that statement of salaries and wages, so.
That's the same resolution as the budget.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, very good.
That's what we
All right.
already got that going.
Thank you.
We're efficient.
We are. Well, then we can move right into the fees and charges. Thank you. We did go over these, was it last month?
Yeah, we went over them. Really, the only changes that I put in here are what we discussed last month, where we'll be reducing the tournament boat fee for fishing tournaments from $100 back down to $50. And then we also implemented in a commercial guide boat fee for $500. There'll be a commercial pass for any type of guiding services. So I put that in there. I made sure to clarify that it was a guide boat fee, not other vessels. So those are really the only two changes. All the other remaining prices, fees, and charges will remain the same as 2017.
And Mike, I will be abstaining from that vote because it has marina fees in there.
All right. All right, do we have any discussion on the 2018 fees and charges? I'd entertain a motion to accept the 2018 fees and charges as written.
Mary Jane will make a motion.
I'll second.
You have to tell Andrew your
Les
name.
is
It's
seconding.
Les with the long name.
There's a prize if you can
Les
spell
W.
it.
Motion's been made and seconded. No discussion, no other further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion is carried as well. That's it for Treasurer's Report.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
All right, next on the agenda is the discussion of the 2018 board meeting dates, which has to be a resolution. We do this every year, and now I've lost my, oh, here it is.
Sorry.
We have a listing, you got a listing in your packet of when those dates will be for 2018. Has everybody had a chance to look at that, put eyes on that? We have it at this point, so we're at the fourth Thursday of the month. So the meetings will be January 25th. The annual meeting in February is February 22nd, March 22nd, April 26th, May 24th, September 27th, October 25th, and this is where we get into trouble again. November 22nd is Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving, yeah.
And then December 27th, I mean, who's going to come 2 days after? I feel like that's a bad plan. So I would like to discuss the possibility of planning to do what we're doing this year, and that is canceling the November meeting and then moving the December meeting earlier in December. And I believe it would fall, Adam, what did we decide? On the 13th?
That I've written down a second ago.
It's in the
Yeah,
teens.
Thursday the 13th.
Thursday the 13th instead of the 27th.
And I would be able to make that meeting.
Okay. I'm just throwing it out there, looking ahead
Right.
at that being an
I've
issue.
got my calendar right here,
Okay.
so I would be working.
And
that
we
day.
can't do it earlier because we won't have the numbers, right?
Yeah, we really can't go too much earlier just because we won't have the November financials usually until at least the second week.
You're still busy on Thursdays, on Wednesdays?
Let's see.
It's hard to know a year in advance.
It is, I realize that. I'm just worried about.
It's possible I could make a Wednesday one. I'll have to see. That's a whole year
So are we
in
talking
advance.
about the 12th? Could you make?
I can make the
December
12th. Mhm. But again, I don't.
That's finals week, so the whole thing changes in anyway. So that would be Wednesday, the 12th, 2018.
then that may be a conflict here.
I do
They
do some
a lot of
stuff
their
on Wednesdays, so we can, I'll
Oh.
get in contact with them and see if
That's
that
right.
would be available. We can always amend the motion with 2/3
Okay.
on the resolution, so if we need to. I can-
Also, if I could ask, we used to have the February meeting earlier.
Yeah, we would normally do that the first Wednesday or Thursday. Historically, though, it's been a non-working meeting. We just gave the report. In the past 2 years, we've been having, going over our dredging and all that, so it's a working meeting. So if we're gonna be doing work, we'll just assume space it normally, so we
Okay.
can have time to prepare.
I do like that better.
I cannot make that 22nd meeting, February 22nd.
So that would be the one, you would have a report that would be, we would need to deliver for you then,
Right.
of the annual. Is that okay with you?
That's okay with me, I won't be able to make it.
Okay, okay. All right, any other thoughts or concerns about those dates? Is May 24th, the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Looking back, well, that's kind of good. Okay. Well, if there's no other thought or discussion, I might ask for a motion to,
Thank you. I can sign one of those. That's all right, thank you.
Can we have a motion that would say, A, that we're going to cancel one of those two meetings, November or December, well, we're going to cancel the November meeting, and then have a December 12th or 13th meeting, and we can decide that as we know more? Or do we have to say a date and then change it?
I would say the date and then change it because we
Okay.
have to publish this, so.
okay.
Oh,
But so we can do a motion.
well, let's do the 12th.
Do the 12th.
Let's
and then if
say
we have to change it,
December
we do-
12th.
Okay, would you make that motion? Just as you
Yes,
say?
Mary Jane is making a motion. I'm sorry. That we accept these meeting dates, except for we will cancel the November meeting and schedule a board meeting for December 12th, 2018.
I would s-
Second that.
And this is Sue Miller.
Yep.
All
I
right.
won't be here, so.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the meeting schedule with the change of canceling November and changing December to the 12th. All those, is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that brings us to the manager's report. Adam?
Mark this on December 12th. Manager's report. Board of Directors update. We do have an election coming up for District 2 and District 6, which would be Sue Miller and Pam Dugan. It is the normal time, so it'll be for a full 4-year term. Those nominations need to be in before December 1st, or at least postmarked before December 1st, to the office at Brittle Point Park. As of now, there are no nominations that we have received for either district. We saw about a month ago, so I'm sure we will get something in there. Winter drawdown discussion. We generally talk about that at this meeting. We're currently drawn down. We've been down for a little bit, so I don't know if we want to drop it back down. I still need to get the water to come up a little bit so I can get our work boat off of the lift. So with us being already drawn down, I mean, what are people's thoughts of just kind of letting it pull back in and keeping, or?
But haven't we kind of determined that it's better not to draw down as far as sedimentation and erosion and stuff? So I gotta be in favor of just let it fill back up to where it belongs and.
There are people
call
that
it
still
good.
have boats on lifts too.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
waiting to get off.
Sure. Yep.
And like, for instance, my dock can't get moved until the lake comes back up,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
So I would agree with that. We've had our drawdown for this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things I would like the board to think about, and we need some further discussion, is when we talked about not doing drawdowns, we talked about there are pros and cons about drawing down and not drawing down. And since this whole thing with the railroad came up, I was hoping that we might, we talked at that time when we said no drawdown. We said, well, maybe we need to look at this and determine over like a 3 to 5 year period, would we draw down sometimes, some years, but not others, to help freeholders with the work they need to get done, et cetera, et cetera. And then the railroad thing came up, and I would like to see if we could get to a point where we know what the maintenance schedule is for the railroad, and that we can somehow work with them going forward to say, here are the opportunities, how does this fit? And we won't get into this thing again where they come at us and say, we gotta do it right now.
Have they said that they will be doing more maintenance? I mean, do we know that there's a schedule for them?
No, I haven't done any for a long time.
Because they really haven't spoken with us.
Well, then
I
it's
don't-
kind of hard for us to plan if we don't know
Well,
what their plans are.
Yeah, and if we do have a plan in place, I think they would probably be able to accommodate
Okay.
a little
Okay,
bit. And
so-
before we talked about doing my proposition would be every third year we do a drawdown. We have a lot of turnover, it gives people enough time to plan out any type of shoreline projects that we're doing. We're not drawing down every year, but people need to do work, well, then they'll know what dates they can schedule it. Last time we drew down was winter of 14 going into 15. So if we did every third year, that would be next year, winter of 18, 19.
And what, 2.5?
Potentially for a
2.5,
drawdown.
3 feet?
I don't think there's really any need for more than 3 feet. Just at 2.5 foot down, it kind of exposed all the shoreline in the shallow areas, and people with really deep water, whether you go 2.5 to 5, it's not gonna matter.
I'm going to depart from our current protocol for a second. I want to know what.
Make a comment before you go to the,
I'm
before you go to the
sorry,
public, that's
sure,
okay. If we were to draw the lake down, I would hope that our engineering company would have a plan in place so that we could do multiple things in the lake, rather than just draw the lake down and not use that as an opportunity to put our weirs in, or our serpentine riprap things that have been proposed. So that's what I would ask for, is that we have multiple things going on with a drawdown, not just draw the lake down and not be doing something. So,
And I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Absolutely.
But will you have the engineering study done by next
The
year?
plan is to have it next year. Yeah, we should have the plan next year, and then we'll have to start focusing on implementation as far as finding the funding. But I would agree with Mike, let's wait until we get the plan in place. That way we can start the work, and if we draw down, we can utilize that for some of the initial steps.
So you can plan it and announce it, and then if we have to change it.
Yeah, we can always change it.
Anybody else have a thought on the board?
I agree.
Okay. So I'm going to depart from protocol just a little bit. We hold public comment at the end of the meeting, but I would invite anybody with a thought or a question about this discussion to speak up.
Why is the lake still being drained?
Why is
It's closed, we're just waiting on rain. We
just-
got
I mean,
all-
why, you said their gate's still open?
No, the
No,
gate's
no, no.
closed.
Oh, okay, that's all I was waiting for.
Yeah, we just had, it was so dry out there, all that
Yeah.
rain we got the other week just was absorbed by the ground.
Don't you leave it
Yeah.
cracked? I mean,
You have to, because
Okay,
it's
It doesn't
physical.
close all the,
Right.
like, there's
It
a
doesn't-
tiny flow, but not enough to really
Yeah.
affect the
All right, I was just,
Yeah.
I thought we were
Yeah.
talking like, it's
Yeah.
still open.
Yeah, no, it's closed.
There's always a little bit
Tiny
going out. It's just,
trickle.
it's a physics
Yeah.
thing
Yeah,
because,
I understand.
yeah,
Just
but,
can't-
Yeah.
Since
yeah.
they fixed the
Just
road.
wanted to.
I don't think we've had any rain.
not to
Not
Couple
enough.
runoff.
We've had rain, but not
I
enough.
kind of agree with Mike. I think we need to have a better plan in place. If we're gonna do a drawdown, let's make it beneficial. Just
Absolutely,
not
right.
For us freeholders to repair docks or what have you.
Right, I agree. I
Get
agree,
plan in
Scotty.
place, then plan your drawdowns. Right now, you don't.
Right, that's what we're all thinking. I think we're on
I
the
think-
same page, Scott,
Yeah.
for sure. All right.
So if that's the case, I guess we just need, let's motion to maintain normal pool water levels for this winter, and then we'll come back and discuss this as we move forward with our engineering.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Mike Blackwell made the motion.
Mary Jane seconded.
Laura did too.
Kathleen or
Take it
something.
over,
All right.
guys.
Guess we get it.
Do you want to vote?
Oh, yes, we better. So it has been moved and seconded that we maintain the lake level
At Normal Pool.
At Normal Pool for the winter of 2017-18. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Still you, Adam.
All right, next up we got the Indiana Railroad and water level update. The railroad finished on Wednesday, October 4th. So they were done within probably about 2.5 weeks, as well under 3 weeks, for the repairs to get done. I don't think they laid cement or anything, and it appears what all they did was went into the areas where the I-beams were corroding on the footers and kind of cut that out and replated them. So really it was just, I think, dealing with the steel on the footers.
They just busted the concrete off.
I saw it on the far
And
ones.
they didn't replace any of it.
Yeah, so they just did the metal. But they said they're done, and that's all they're going to be doing. So that was done on October 4th. The gate was actually closed almost the whole time they were working, or else we'd be way down. So really just waiting on rain. With all the rain that we have had, we've only come up probably about 3 or 4 inches, so we're still a little over 1.5 feet below Normal Pool. Just waiting on rain to come up.
Well, I'll just wait for the big crash.
Next up, we got our logging update. Anybody that's been to strategic planning committee meetings or the last couple board meetings, we've had a guy named Dave Seastrom with Indiana Forest Alliance that has been coming to the meetings and talking about the logging that's going on in Morgan Monroe Forest and Yellowwood Forest. They are concerned that there's a lack of best management practices and erosion prevention going on in the logging areas. So they asked us to get involved and potentially start writing letters to our senators or to the DNR, asking them to stop the logging and put a moratorium. In order to get both sides of the story, we actually had our last strategic planning committee, 2 guys from DNR come in, Jim Allen, who's the property manager for Yellowwood and Morgan Monroe Forest and kind of oversees all the logging, the selection, and we had a guy named Dwayne McCoy, and he works with DNR Timber Services, and he's actually responsible for the buyer certifications and licensing. So I brought in some of my notes from that, and really some of the highlights that I got are, you don't just willy-nilly give out these bids to different companies. The logging companies that come in have to be pre-registered. They're required to have their certifications for best management practices and logging. As of July 1st, 2017, so this year, the timber companies are required to have an on-site foreman with current and recent training in best managing practices and their cutter training for the logging. And then now Jim and his guys, the foresters, they actually go out. They try to get out there every day, he says, but it's more often twice a week that they go out while there's active logging to make sure that they're following procedures, utilizing best management practices, and all of that. Now, when they do start to close out the sites, there's a big process that they go through when they're done logging in the area. They go out and they do final inspections too and make sure that the companies have implemented best management practices, to have any debris and everything cleared up, streams cleaned out. So there's a closeout process too, so it's not just left in a state of decay and potentially leading to more erosion. So the way they made it sound is that everybody goes to training. They have to have certified loggers and cutters with the companies themselves. They do have the foresters that go out and check on it weekly in the areas. So kind of what I'm thinking is I really don't want to start writing letters to the DNR because we're going to be looking for grants here coming up, and I'd hate to be on the bad side of the DNR. As a government agency, they're in control of regulating the forestry, and they view the forest and the property as an asset. They manage this for timbering, for forestry, to promote growth and then strategically cut out areas that they can use for funding. Something I also found out recently is that the DNR, like their state parks budget, had just gotten cut 40% going into this new year, so that's one of the reasons for the uptick in the timbering, is to kind of bring in some additional revenue that they're not going to be getting through the state legislator. So what I propose, and we've kind of talked about in our strategic planning committee, is as we move forward, checking out some of these sites before we do any action, looking at some of the current active sites, going out with a few of the board members and some people on the strategic planning committee, and just kind of look for ourselves and kind of make sure that they're following what the rules they say they're doing, they're utilizing the best management practices, And then if we can see with our own eyes that they are doing what they're supposed to do and doing their due diligence, well, then I think our action is essentially moot. Like, we don't need to proceed. If we see something major where they're not utilizing it, they're not closing out, stuff just looks really dismayed, at that point, we could write DNR and we could say, hey, here's what you guys said you're going to do, here's what's actually happening. And at that point, you have some kind of ground and you have something to go with them with. As of now, I would suggest that we don't just start writing DNR saying we're unhappy with their logging. But I will open this up for discussion.
Mary Jane maybe want to add a point to that.
Yeah, one of the things that, then that was part, that was, this all happened most recently at the planning committee meeting, but one of the things that Pam and I talked about briefly was, you know, Dave Seastrom has put a lot of effort and spent a lot of time with us. And this is the classic, you know, when two people have opposing views, the truth is usually somewhere in between. And that is why I think it was a great idea to recommend that some of the board members go out and actually see what's going on. Pam had a suggestion that I think we really ought to consider, and she said maybe we should have Dave Seastrom go with us, or because remember, he said he would be happy to take us out and show us. So that may, you know, because I don't think, we certainly don't want to alienate DNR, but we also don't want to alienate the Indiana Forest Alliance. So somehow I think Dave could still be helpful in helping us learn and get to the truth.
I think it'd be a good idea, maybe the springtime, once it warms up, I can let Dave know in advance, we reach out to him and maybe have him do a guided tour and show some of the areas that he's concerned about and some of the active logging, so he's still participating in it.
So when is this proposed logging supposed to happen?
There's current sites going on. I don't have my maps with me. They brought in a map of one of the current logging areas, and that's one of the ones we talked about.
I thought they were going to be starting there in November or December. I don't know why I think that.
Is it November?
Because all trees look dead in November.
And we have the dates on that, and actually all the logging plans are on that, so we can we'll look at the dates and try to plan something out.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be the key to see what the results are on the ground, and I'd send an email to you guys. I mean, I do agree. I think it's an excellent idea to hold off. We only did have one side of the story at first, now we have two sides. Maybe if we go out and walk it, all of us ought to go, including DNR.
Sure.
Because otherwise, Dave's obviously, you know, he's going to look for stuff that's going to benefit his point of view, and I'd like to have a professional on the other side of the fence to say, well, you know, maybe not.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
As long as they don't, like, get in a big fight with each other.
None of that.
Well, and I guess what I wondered about was, Dave showed us those pictures. I don't know where they are, and I don't know whose land they're on. You know, and I'm not saying that, but maybe there were some things that happened in the past that weren't so good, but maybe there are things now that are
Well, some of it's happening
better.
in Yellowwood.
Yeah, well, and that's specifically what Jim Allen and Dwayne McCoy talked with us about, was the backcountry.
That one was Morgan Monroe, but
Yeah,
Jim
that's
is the
Morgan
same
Monroe.
property
It's
manager
happening.
for Yellowwood and Morgan Monroe.
Yeah, it's happening in Morgan Monroe, and they're just pretty much clear cutting in areas on hills.
Adam,
Yeah.
can you provide me with Dave's contact information? I'm gonna think it would be nice to call him and let him know, since he's not here. He could certainly listen to the minutes, but I think it would be good for one of us to call him and let him know what our next steps are. So if you could shoot me that tomorrow, that'd be great.
Well, I don't think we need any motions for this, but so let's go ahead and reach out to Dave and then kind of try to schedule a time to go check out this area once the activity is going on.
Yeah.
I do have a question. You mentioned the grants from DNR, and they're providing sediment or removal grants now, or something of the like.
For dredging grants?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that we tried to get a letter of intent out last January.
That was for the 319 grant.
Okay. When are those letter of intents?
The 319 grant?
No, the dredging grants.
Those are in the springtime. That'll be the same time that we apply for the vegetation grant. And historically, we've gotten over $200,000 from them for dredging when we initially started. And we hit the threshold. There's a limit that they would allot to any individual grantee, as I'll call it. But recently in discussions, actually mostly, we're friends with, I know quite a few of them that at our Indiana Lakes Management Society, they told us that a lot of the areas, it's the same couple reservoirs that are applying for these dredging and sediment removal grants, kind of all of them are hitting that cap and threshold, so they think they may have to remove that or start giving money above the initial cap and threshold. So they suggested that we go ahead and just start applying to those again.
Yes.
So when we apply for our vegetation one, we'll
Okay.
be applying for that too.
You may have something to add to that. We got an email, I thought you were attached to that email from Ellicott Dredges that sent us an email about people that were awarded those grants. I have to go back and look. But,
I didn't see that, but I did, one of the engineering companies I talked to said, yeah, there's a lot of money available out there.
Yeah.
I didn't get them to
Okay.
elaborate at the time.
All right, thank you.
Adam,
I think that's it.
would you introduce the young man to your left? I should have done
Yeah,
that.
I should have done this earlier. This is Andrew. If anybody comes to the park regularly, might recognize him from the gatehouse. He's in school at IU and will be going into SPIA this springtime, the School of Public and Environmental Affairs. In order to get him a little more experience rather than just cleaning barrels and collecting money, he's going to be helping us out during the winter time at these next couple of board meetings, helping take minutes. And he'll be helping us out with administrative stuff this winter time as far as getting contracts and brochures and everything updated in the office. And then probably looking at doing an internship in the springtime, so we'll be able to work for us and knock out an internship too. You got anything you want to say? Introduce yourself? Or?
No, thanks for the nice introduction though.
What's your, Andrew, I'm sorry, what's your last name?
O'Malley.
O'Malley. Okay.
Well, that's familiar.
Glad to have you at the table.
Thank you. Good to be
Okay,
here.
so Andrew, is this full-time then, for now, or?
I'm in part-time, I'm in school full-time, so.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering how you were gonna do both, so.
Yeah.
Because you're
Okay.
talented.
Yeah, I've available hours, Tuesday, Thursdays, I get done with class at 9:15, and I have Fridays off, so
Okay.
I do availability.
Okay.
That's great.
And is this this position, we think that this would be the replacement for James?
No.
Okay, so
because
this
it's
is
not a
an entirely
biologist.
different.
Yeah, this is going to be that replacement is, we'll be looking at that closer when we get to the budget year in
Yeah.
January, and we'll start
Yeah.
soliciting for that for the operations supervisor. But we're kind of separating and teasing out a lot of the admin stuff from the
Right, and I know we
operations
talked
supervisor.
about that as a need for
So I
that.
thought it was like when I started in 2009 and 10, I was also an intern in school. So really for the admin stuff, just having somebody out there a couple days a week is fine and saves us money in the long run.
So are you in SPIA now?
Yeah,
So what year are you?
Senior.
Okay, okay. I teach there.
Do you?
Yeah.
So watch
You didn't take my class though, so that's okay.
Oh, man.
What do you teach?
Guess what you teach?
So I know Sue's taking.
I teach environment people, the
Okay.
E162, it's the introductory one.
Okay.
So if you're in the environmental management one, your science, you probably took 272
Yeah.
or, okay. Yeah.
All right,
that's
thank
the
you.
manager's report.
All right, Strategic Planning Committee, Mary Jane?
Okay, the Strategic Planning Committee met on Friday, October 13th, and nothing bad happened to us. And Adam told you we spent a big portion of that meeting with Jim Allen and Dwayne McCoy from DNR talking about logging. On subcommittee updates, Pam is drafting a letter to CBU management that will help us kick off or pick up, I guess is a better way to say, our relationship building with them. And it looks like we should move that along pretty quickly as we start to talk about things we're going to need help from them on. You have on the table, board members, a draft of a media relations policy. The committee has drafted and reviewed and revised a media relations policy, and in the past I don't think we thought, we weren't in the news much, and now we've been in the news some, and we decided that it might be a good idea to have a policy and a procedure about how we communicate with the media going forward. So this policy is for your review, and at next month's meeting, we're going to ask for a vote on it.
In December. 'Cause we want-
At the December meeting, we'll ask for a vote. And if you have any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm not sure where to go. One of the things in the meeting, Pam was going to follow up with Susan Snyder-Salmon regarding the status of Friends of Lake Lemon, and before she had a chance to do that, a few of us got an email from Susan, and Susan has decided, due to her personal circumstances, to step back from her work on Friends of Lake Lemon, and she will also be leaving the Strategic Planning Committee, and has very graciously offered to help, transfer the information that she and some others have gathered, and will be doing that. In the meantime, Lance Everly and Ann Roboleski, and are you going to that meeting too? Adam will be meeting with Angela Parker to discuss fundraising for the Conservancy District on a broader basis than just a 501c3, because we have determined that people could be making donations to the Lake Lemon Conservancy District that are tax deductible on their federal returns, not state, but federal returns right now. But we still need, I think, the Friends of Lake Lemon piece. And I've been starting to work more with Ann Roboleski, and I think I'm going to ask her to pick up that Friends of Lake Lemon piece, because she was working with Susan on it in the first place. So
That makes sense.
you'll be hearing more about this.
I noticed that the Friends of Lake Lemon Facebook page changed.
I heard that too.
Who did that?
That's Sue's Facebook page,
That's
so
her Facebook page.
So-
I don't do Facebook.
she's still claiming that it's not
Okay,
any, like,
she's changed it to Lake Lemon Community
Yeah,
District
that's what I
or
heard.
something like
yeah,
that.
community information.
Okay, so,
Well,
There's nothing we can do about that because it's her Facebook page she started up called Friends of Lake Lemon.
okay. I wonder if she's, okay, I'm just curious.
this would be another thing that begs why we don't have a media relations policy, or a social media policy. We'll have to work through that piece
Right,
because
so
we don't
I
want
would
the last thing.
I would refrain from calling it Friends of Lake Lemon. I think we should come up with another name, since she owns that. It appears she owns that name or that right, if she's got it.
Well, and that might be a good suggestion, but we'll figure it out.
Okay, yeah, I'm just
And
saying.
we'll be talking to Susan. It's not like she's leaving the lake or anything.
Right.
Ann's husband's in the audience. He may have some insight on it.
You know her?
Let me speak for Ann.
Yeah. Always a
Don't do it.
dangerous thing.
Don't do it.
I think Sue did change that Facebook page in case we wanted
Sorry,
to
Vince.
continue
I
using
apologize.
Friends of Lake Lemon, so it's available.
Okay. Then we'll start.
Current Facebook page trying to raise money, or?
All right.
I think Susan set that up at the very beginning. I've actually never looked at it. It's never really been advertised.
It actually is now pretty informative, because it sent notices. That's how I got it. I got a notice that we were having a meeting tonight. I got some other notices, and I'm like, wow, what is this? That's what caught my eye. Did you get it too, or did you see it, or?
She posts, usually anything that we send out, she kind of posts that, and that's why she changed it to community information.
Okay.
So she kind of, as we do official
guess we just
action,
need
she
to
just
investigate.
updates it out there. Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, and then we, kind of to your point, Mike, we need to be able to say what our official communications vehicles are.
Right.
And so we'll work that out with
Yeah,
Susan.
right.
The Lake Health team is developing a design, build, and bid process. And Adam has been, as I understand, talking to some of the engineers.
Yeah, actually, myself and Malcolm had close to an hour conversation with one of the engineering companies, I believe called Geotech was the one we spoke to. Geosyntech that we spoke to yesterday. So essentially what we've done is Malcolm helped tease out 4 or 5 very qualified companies that have done projects on this scale before and have dealt with a similar sediment management. So what we're doing now at this point is working with the companies. I actually have 2 already scheduled to come next week and do some site visits and talk with us. And they will be providing us with proposals, potential pathways for management. They'll probably be multifaceted. They're going to give us proposals and talk about the projects they've done, qualifications, what they think is the best option. Once we receive those from the company, we'll be bringing them to the board. And we'll be able to discuss which kind of pathways we want to take, what we think is the most feasible. Then we'll be able to select a company that we want to use next year to come up with the construction engineering plans and everything. We do have $50,000 budgeted for next year for the consulting companies. So what that will essentially do is help us get our guideline for the construction, what we're actually going to do, the permitting needs that we need, helping us acquire the permitting. And since that's under $50,000, we can just select that. We'll have to motion once we're to that point. So essentially we'll have the construction plans and the pathways, but then we'll have that, and then as we find the funding sources or decide we're going to be able to use to raise the money, at that point, once we have to solicit for the construction and for the actual implementation, since we're dealing with such a large amount of money, we'll have to do the full sealed bid process. That'll be after we have our game plan, for lack of better words.
So, much more to come on that.
Yes.
And then the other thing Adam talked about in the planning committee meeting was that he's beginning to develop a hazardous algae blooms action plan. And do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty cool. Well, it's getting more and more frequent that we're having these algal blooms. As we keep getting rain, as the waters stay warmer, they're going to happen more and more frequently. I think it's just the way all lakes are progressing. You can really see it in the Great Lakes right now. It's just becoming more frequent and kind of an annual thing in the fall. So we're really kind of underprepared now. Is well, once we see the algal blooms it's brought to our attention, we'll call somebody up, have them test it, and then we can get a plane out. What we're doing is I'm working with a graduate student in SPIA. He's a nice guy from Saudi Arabia, and he's doing their water resource management. He actually works right at the interaction between environmental management and policy. So he's helping us develop a hazardous algal bloom action plan. So what I'll do is kind of get us on a testing schedule. So like seasonal, what we need to be looking for, what can we test in, that way we can be more aware and catch it on the front end instead of completely reactionary. We can monitor the lake as we go along. If we start having the blooms, our notification plans for the public, potential signage, testing as far as the toxins that can be present. So it'll really kind of be like our action plan that we have for the dam break, except it'd be for the hazardous algal bloom, what steps we're going to take to monitor it, stay ahead of it, notify the public, and potential actions if there ever are toxins present. The past 2 years, mostly in the overflow ponds, but we have had, it turns out brown rust collar, and that's all blue-green algae, and they are potentially toxin producing. So far the toxins haven't been present, but they are potentially producing algae. So we just need to stay on top of that. So we'll be working with him throughout the winter time. Then we're hoping towards the end of his semester in the spring, we'll actually have a deliverable. He's doing it for one of his big projects too, and myself and Melissa Clark, who does our testing, will be working with him to help develop that over the winter time. So getting some free work for us, get the hazardous algal bloom out of it, and then he's going to get a capstone project from him. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Sounds good. The next Strategic Planning Committee meeting will be Friday, November 10th at 3:30 at the office. And that's my report.
And those are open to
Yeah, they're
everyone.
open to everyone.
So feel free to join us.
I just have one question, if I can. I missed, so when you get these 2 or 3 or however many companies, when do you think that you would bring those proposals to the board?
Once we actually have their proposals, so they'll all write us a proposal with what they think their plans are, what the action is, and kind of what projects they've worked with. But then once we get that from all of them, we'll bring them to the board for discussion and then for actual solicitation of what company that we want to go with.
So right now, it's too early to tell when that will be.
Yeah, I would imagine, I've told them all, the ones that we've talked to so far and the meeting set up, I told them that we have our money set up for as soon as 2018 hits. We're going to go to that budget calendar, we have the monies. So I believe, when did we have a December deadline date for them getting these proposals to us? So.
Well, initially, the deadline was for this meeting, but.
So we'll be getting them we should have them
They'll be
this
coming
year.
in soon.
This year, and then that way in January, we'll be able to hopefully hit the ground running with them.
Stay tuned.
I think you guys know where I'm going with this, so if we get those in, and then maybe talking about a drawdown next year, because if we're gonna look at maybe getting a bond, then we need to start looking at those types of proposals immediately afterwards.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So-
Good reminder.
And we will also need to work with the CBU if we do a bond.
Yeah,
that's
City
a good one.
Securities
So we've
in
got to get
Indianapolis, they have low yield, low interest bonds. The fire department's used them many times, and so that's just one source. Many of them out there.
Yeah,
So, okay, just.
we have people looking into that.
Do you? Okay,
Yeah,
very
so
good.
realistically,
It's coming.
Realistically, the time frame is going to be next year, developing the construction plan, the permitting process and all that, and that's what that $50,000 will go till, and while we're discovering the bonds, and then hopefully early 2019 is when we're actually going to hit the ground with the project. So I think next year will be all the planning, getting everything in place, getting permitting in place, getting construction plans, and what we're going to move forward with. And these type of companies, they'll design it all for you, but they don't do construction implementation. So that's when we'll have to go to the sealed bid process once we have the plans in place. So realistically, next year we'll have all the preliminary work in place, ready to hit the ground, and then 2019 hit the ground, assuming we can come up with the money and bonds.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right. Does that complete
That's
your report?
fine.
Thank you. Excellent. Feel like we're getting off the ground. All right. Brings us to public comment. If you would care to come to the podium, that's fine, but I think we're a small enough group that if you just raise your hand and if you have something to ask or say, be happy to entertain that now. Wow.
Mr. Whitaker had his hand up.
Well, he just answered it.
Oh,
Good.
I want to throw a question out.
He read your mind.
2019, I'm going, okay. How you gonna do it all 2018?
Would you like to speak for Georgia?
I'm speaking for Jordan.
Sorry, Les.
Oh, yeah, I just have a question. Are there any fishermen out there, and do you feel like we're catching less crappies than we used to, or is it my skill level just kind of falling off? I mean, I
Yeah,
go
that's
to
it.
all the places I used to catch a lot of crappies and good sized ones, and I don't catch them anymore.
No one's catching anything right now.
You have,
Yeah, I mean, but this has been true all
15-inch
summer.
crappie off my dock.
say again?
By
I got
us.
a 14-inch and a 15-inch crappie off my dock.
Well,
Where do you live?
Where do you live?
Yeah, we've been stacked.
Right on the east side where it's barely any water right now.
Yeah.
And actually, on that line, we've been packed with fishermen for the crappie, so I hate to say just skills, but
Okay.
they look incredible.
Well, maybe they
We
just
do
shot
have,
them.
we do
They
have
jump
next
down by
week,
mine.
Aquatic Controls coming out to do our electrofishing survey. With only the being a foot and a half down, we can get to the majority of the sites, and then we'll just be shifting a couple of the sites on the far east end. So we will be out, I think they're coming out Wednesday and Thursday. They normally do that in the evening time. But we'll be doing a fishery survey throughout the entire lake.
Well, good.
The last one, I believe, was in 2009 or 10. So we'll be able to compare it, and we'll actually be able to look at our stocks and yield and sizing. So
Good.
hopefully that'll give us some good management inclinations there.
If it's still the same, Les, maybe you have to hire one of those fishing guides to take you out.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. All right. New business, I don't think we have any, except to remind you that we will not be meeting in November. So happy Thanksgiving, everyone, on behalf of your board. And the next board meeting will be December the 14th, right back here at 6 o'clock. That's a Thursday night, trying to get ahead of the holidays so we don't have people crazily missing meetings. Sure.
Thank you.
And with that, if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please, at 10 to 7. I want to just make note of that.
So moved.
Seconded? All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Who did
for
we get a
coming.
motion
We are
and second
adjourned.
from?
Yes.
What?
Mary Jane?
I made the motion.
Les.
Les seconded.
Les seconded.
Very good. Thanks for coming. Drive safely.
I've been looking for his pocket, and I think I just found it.
Hey.
All right,
He's a very busy guy.
We don't have any
Oh, I
calls for a while, but I'm
could
thinking,
there.
so we do the drive around, and then really we're.
Well, no, and then if you put a pen in there, it just slides right in.
That's probably what it is there.
Maybe. I made this
Love to.
I've been emailing you, I'm Tom.
Hi, Tom. Good to meet you in person. Here's the house. Your house. Yeah.
Move in and.
Oh, they open?
8 days. Are you going to be
Oh,
here
that's
full
right.
time?
When I came by.
Wow. Welcome.
Well, I tried to just buy that house and fix it up, and my wife's like, two houses to maintain.
Yeah.
Like, we're either gonna move down there full time or we're not gonna go to Lake
Where are you moving from? Are you?
Fishers.
Oh, wow.
Right in the heart of
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So,
That's exciting. It is a gorgeous one.
Thank you, thank you.
Well,
We're
you know,
ready to get in and, so.
I had a fun time a few weeks ago. There was a bonfire. I came home from a meeting and I'm like, oh my God, still the drought. And they were burning all that plywood to scrap. Okay. And I thought, well, sure.
well, I wasn't going to say it.
Your brother, Bill, right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know there's kind of a vertical looking tank and maybe a hot water. Okay, I just kind of watched it. Everything was fine. Got up at 2:30.